You're in the wrong place, Zaire replied, icy calm settling into his demeanor. He released the man but took a deliberate step back, locking eyes with Wrenna. This is my home now. You don't know what you're getting into. As the intruder scrambled out, Wrenna's heart raced. A cocktail of shock and something dangerously akin to desire rose within her. The strength in Zaire's resolve had unraveled a thread of vulnerability within herself, the stark realization that danger and intimacy could intertwine. Are you hurt? She asked softly, her voice barely a whisper, the words rich with concern. Zaire leaned closer, his breath mingling with hers, the air sizzling between them. Only if you let me be. In that fragile heartbeat, they clung to possibility, facing the oncoming storm together, entwined in urgency and longing, fortified by the weight of their choices and the pulse of an uncharted future. Scene 54. Deepening trust. The heavy scent of smoke curled through the air as Wrenna crouched behind a ruined wall, her heart thundering like a war drum. The world outside trembled with the echo of gunfire, each crack sharp enough to pierce through the thick tension binding her and Zaire. Moments earlier, they had barely escaped an ambush, but now the past was catching up to them, like a shadow sprinting down a narrow corridor. Zaire's dark eyes flared with urgency as he peered through the jagged opening, scanning the street littered with debris and echoes of chaos. They'll come for us again, he said, steel lacing his tone. His strong hands trembled minutely as he reloaded his weapon, a steely unpredictability lurking beneath the surface of his bravado. Wait, Wrenna said, grabbing his wrist. Time twisted in a taut silence, filled only by the distant wails of sirens and the acrid tang of burnt concrete. She couldn't shake off the gnawing fear clawing at her chest. We can't just keep running. Zaire turned to her, his breath a rough whisper between them. And what do you propose we do, Wrenna? Sit here and wait for them to finish us off? His eyes darkened, and frustration flickered across his face like a flame threatening to snuff out. Maybe we should talk, share our plans, instead of hiding like caged animals, she shot back, her pulse quickening. The walls felt as though they were closing in, and the heat of their argument stung her skin. Before Zaire could respond, a bullet whizzed past, ricocheting against the wall, sending shards of gravel flying. They both dropped instinctively, striking the concrete floor. Her heart raced. This was all too much. I can't. Wrenna gasped, her voice barely a whisper, edged with panic. I can't keep pretending I know what's going on. Zaire's brow furrowed as he met her gaze, shadowed by the adrenaline-fueled haze. You think I have all the answers? You're not the only one in this fight, he spat, the words sharp, yet beneath them lay an undercurrent of hurt. The distance between them surged with unspoken truths as a deeper vulnerability fractured the air. But you act like you do, she replied, her voice softening. You never let me in. You think you can protect me by keeping me in the dark. He shifted closer, the air vibrating with the intensity of their connection. I never wanted this life for you, Wrenna, but it doesn't mean I don't trust you. Then show me, she nearly shouted, her emotions spilling over like an overturned glass. Show me that I'm not just someone to shield. I want to fight alongside you, Zaire. His gaze softened, the fierce protector flickering in his eyes like a candle in the wind. You don't understand what's at stake. Oh, but I do. Wrenna took a shaky breath, the fear bleeding into defiance. I can see it in the way they looked at us, the way you looked at me. The silence enveloped them again, the distant chaos fading as they each grappled with the weight of honesty. Zaire stepped forward, lowering his voice, coaxing it into a gentle caress. Do you think I'm just some monster? No, she breathed, her pulse quieting against the truth of his words. But some days I can't tell who you really are. I see the ruthless men in your world and I'm scared. Scared that I'll lose you. A rush of emotion flared in his chest as he reached out, brushing her cheek with a tender flick of his thumb. You can't lose me. I'm here, aren't I? But will you always be? She whispered, searching the depths of his expression for reassurance. Zaire shifted again, closing the space that had seemed insurmountable. Trust me, he murmured, his words woven with unyielding sincerity. When it matters most, I'm not going anywhere. Not without you. As they stared into each other's eyes, the weight of the world fell away like a worn cloak, leaving only the heartbeat of their connection. The soft sound of footsteps drew near, swirling their moment back into reality. Wrenna gathered her breath, determination flowing through her. Then let's stand together. Whatever comes, we face it as one. Zaire nodded, a fierce smile breaking through the raw tension. Together. And just like that, the air closed around them once more, pulsing with whispers of hope and unbroken trust. Scene 55, a tide's change. The air in Wrenna's grand salon felt thick with anticipation, every corner of the room steeped in history. As dusk settled, the golden light filtered through the amber-stained glass windows, casting patterns reminiscent of long-forgotten tapestries on the polished oak floor. The room, once a sanctuary for creativity, now hummed with an electric tension as Wrenna Vanderbilt stood wrapped in her thoughts, gazing at the ornate fireplace, its embers flickering like the doubts in her heart. "Do you think they'll come for us?" Wrenna's voice broke the heavy silence, a thread of vulnerability threading through her brave facade. Zaire Vellore leaned against the mantel, his posture relaxed yet alert, eyes scanning the shadows that cloaked the corners of the vast room. The faint sound of waves crashing against the rocky shore outside underlined the charged silence, a rhythmic heartbeat that mirrored their unspoken fears. "No," he said, finally, pushing off the mantel to step closer to her. "Not if we anticipate their moves. We've got them on the defensive now." He looked into her eyes, his gaze intense enough to ignite the air between them. Wrenna took a breath, letting his conviction wash over her. "And if we make a misstep?" Zaire closed the distance, reaching for her hand. "We won't, but if we do—" He paused, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "We'll face it together." The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her, both grounding and exhilarating. "Together," she echoed, the word tasting of both promise and peril. A deep sense of connection blossomed amidst their uncertainty. The tension between them fizzled like static electricity, familiar yet fraught with the anticipation of what lay ahead. She could feel her heart racing, an undercurrent of hope clashing bravely against the shadows of their entwined fates. Suddenly, the slam of a door reverberated through the mansion, shattering the moment. Their heads turned in unison, cautious and alert. Low voices drifted through the hall, a mix of gravelly laughter and hushed urgency. Zaire's expression hardened. "We need to move. They shouldn't be here." Wrenna nodded, her pulse quickening as she released his hand reluctantly. Together, they slipped into the adjacent room, the disarray of vintage furniture a perfect hiding place. There, she felt the rush of adrenaline fuel the bond they were forging in that moment. Their alliance felt like the only truth amidst a sea of lies. Zaire's jaw clenched as they waited, sharing a breath, each second brimming with the unsaid. "You realize this is a turning point for us?" he asked quietly, the weight of his words heavy with significance. "I do." Her heart pulsed with duality, part fear, part thrill. "But what if we're too deep? What if this pulls you into the darkness you fought so hard to escape?" "Wrenna," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear with a deliberate tenderness that contrasted the turmoil outside. "I'm doing this for us, for a future where we're the ones calling the shots." Their eyes locked and a silent understanding passed between them, a shared resolve, a commitment to face whatever storm awaited them. Before either could second-guess the moment, Zaire closed the space between them, wrapping an arm around her waist. He pulled her close, lowering his head until their foreheads touched, breaths mingling in the charged space. It was an intimacy born from the urgency of their situation, yet it bubbled with the possibility of something deeper, an uncharted territory of their connection. "Promise me," Wrenna whispered, her voice barely above a breath, "that you won't let the darkness take you." Zaire's eyes softened, fierce yet tender. "I promise, but we need to keep moving forward. No looking back." A heavy silence enveloped them, all unspoken fears woven tightly into the fabric of their present. With a sudden resolve, he backed away slightly, holding her gaze steady. "Then let's dismantle this together, piece by piece, starting with the syndicate." Her heart raced, processing the implications. "You're ready for that?" He nodded, determination surging through him. "I am, but only if you're with me." With a flicker of hope igniting in her chest, Wrenna smiled, her fears giving way to a renewed sense of purpose. "I am." As footsteps approached, they both readied themselves for the task ahead, willing to step into the storm together. Wrenna, filled with newfound strength, whispered, "Let's change the tide then." Scene 56, Crossroads of Fate. The soft patter of rain against the tall, stained glass windows of the Vanderbilt mansion created a rhythmic backdrop, a cascading symphony that echoed the unease simmering in the air. Wrenna stood in the dimly lit hallway, her arms crossed tightly over her chest like a protective barrier. Zaire leaned against the doorframe, his presence a powerful anchor and yet a looming storm. But what if this isn't just a choice? Wrenna's voice trembled slightly, edged with an urgency that betrayed the calm demeanor she tried to project. What if choosing to stay means walking into a flood I can't control? Zaire's gaze softened, but the tension held firm in his shoulders. And what if leaving means losing every chance at something real between us? Every moment where we find solace in this chaos. His voice was low, a velvet challenge that wrapped around her, tempting her with warmth yet commanding her resolve. The rain intensified, lending an almost palpable weight to the silence that hung between them. They stood as two opposing forces, each navigating their turbulent pasts, their eventual paths tightly entwined by secrets neither dared fully reveal. Wrenna took a step forward, her heart heavy as she painted the image of her future with aching strokes. "You're not just a man, Zaire. You're a world I can't fully understand, a world filled with danger." The words slipped out like petals caught in a breeze, fragile yet daring. We all have our worlds. Zaire pushed himself away from the wall, his resolve crystallizing into something more formidable. "I, too, carry scars that I keep hidden, but I choose to trust you. Whether you see it or not, you have a choice to make here, Wrenna. This life is not just about fear, but about the courage to embrace what lies ahead." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the distant telly room, shifting their focus. It was Emma, Wrenna's spirited cousin, tossing a plush pillow at Marcus, their playful bounder of an acquaintance. "That's it, I'm declaring war on your couch," Emma hollered, laughter spilling into the hallway as she chased Marcus, who was armed with a handful of popcorn. "Hey, the couch is sacred," Marcus retorted, dodging another pillow. "It's where all the great couch potatoes convene." Despite the chaos, a smile crept across Wrenna's face, a small comfort amidst the rising tides of anxiety. She turned back to Zaire, noting how the corners of his mouth twitched in response. "See, they don't take life too seriously." Zaire's gaze softened, and he took a step closer, the atmosphere shifting around them as the adrenaline from their earlier tension faded like the dissipating storm outside. "And yet you still do, which is why we're here, caught between laughter and threat." His brow furrowed in contemplation, his next words laced with undercurrents of vulnerability. "I can promise I'll protect you, but it's not fear that will drive you to me." Wrenna's heart skipped, and she felt the heat of his sincerity against her skin. The dust motes danced in the gentle light filtering through the rain-streaked windows, adding a surreal quality to the moment. "But how do I trust that?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, the question vast and daunting. "What's left if your past comes crashing down around us? What if I don't know how to navigate it?" Zaire inched closer still, his intensity radiating warmth in the cool air. "Then we navigate it together," he said, his voice a husky promise, thick with the weight of honesty. He reached for her, his fingertips brushing against hers, igniting an electric charge that pulsed between them. The room shrank around them, the laughter of Emma and Marcus fading into an irrelevant echo. Here was a crossroads, a crucial choice waiting to be made. Wrenna felt her resolve waver, the possibilities swirling like leaves in the wind, each promising a different outcome. A sudden clap of thunder startled them both, and Wrenna half smiled at the serendipity of it all. "Well, I'm not exactly equipped for storms, but you're a force of nature, Zaire. And then we'll brave them together," he replied, stepping closer, his voice low and fierce like an incoming tide. "Just say the words, Wrenna. I'll be your shelter." Their hands entwined, and in that simple gesture, the weight of decision transformed into the warmth of harbored promise. "Then let's face whatever lies ahead," she breathed. As Zaire tethered her closer, a tender weightlessness filled the space between them, their hearts resonating with unspoken vows. Scene 57. Love Tested. The late afternoon sun cast a warm glow through the tall windows of the Vanderbilt mansion, illuminating the dust motes swirling through the air. Wrenna stood in the grand parlor, her fingers tracing the delicate contours of an ornate piece of antique furniture. This house, a relic of family history, had engulfed her heart with nostalgia. Even as shadows loomed over her, the scent of polished wood and the faint lingering aromas of lilac somehow soothed her. Suddenly, the serenity of the moment shattered as Zaire barged in, the tension that enveloped him palpable. His deep-set eyes sparked with a mixture of passion and premonition that immediately put her on edge. "Wrenna," he said, a fierce urgency coloring his tone, "we need to talk." She crossed her arms defensively, emotions dodging release. "About what? You mean about your continued secrets?" The accusation hung heavily in the air, as potent as the musk of his presence. "Or is it about how you keep me in the dark while you play puppet master in a world I didn't choose to be part of?" Zaire stepped closer, his aura intense, but Wrenna held her ground. "This isn't just a game for me. I'm trying to keep you safe," he replied, frustration boiling beneath the surface. "There's a traitor in my circle. I can feel it." Her heart pounded. "And you think I'm going to blindly trust you now?" Each word cut like a knife, reverberating in the golden light. "You think I don't know how dangerous those you associate with can be? You expect loyalty from me after." "After what?" he interjected, his voice low but controlled, the menacing calm before the storm. "After I've risked everything for you? After I've sacrificed all to shield you from this life? Whether you like it or not, Wrenna, you're entangled in it all now." His gaze softened for a moment, the heat of his presence drawing her in, flickering like a candle, desperately fighting the wind. For just an instant, vulnerability danced across his sharp features. "I didn't want this for you. I didn't want you to inherit anything that could tie you to this mess." "Then why didn't you tell me the truth?" Tears brimmed in her eyes, anger warring with the need to let him in. "Do you honestly believe I'm incapable of handling it? I deserve honesty, Zaire, but you seem more willing to treat me as a child than an equal." Zaire clenched his fists, the muscles in his jaw tightening. "I wanted to shield you. I wanted you to live without fear." His voice cracked near the end, revealing a fissure in his otherwise impenetrable demeanor. The silence hung heavy, thick with the weight of unspoken truths. Suddenly, his phone vibrated violently against the polished surface, breaking the spell. Zaire snatched it, curse-laden words tumbling from his lips as he read the urgent message. "Damn it," he muttered, pacing. "It's happening sooner than I thought." "What's going on?" Wrenna probed, fear slicing through her bravado. "What's happening soon?" He turned on her, an all-consuming rage flickering in his eyes. "You can't." "Can't what?" she interrupted, heart racing at his intensity. "Can't know what's at stake? Can't be treated like a partner? I am here every step of the way. Don't you dare reduce me to collateral." As she spoke, Wrenna felt the heat rising between them, electric and undeniable. Zaire's frustration simmered down as he stepped forward, invading her space all at once. "Then stop pretending you don't want this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, raw with a need she could taste. Wrenna's breath hitched, the air thick with electric anticipation. They stood inches apart, the universe around them fading as tension anchored them in place. Her heart raced as Zaire reached out, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. "Tell me you want and tell me we're in this together." "A betrayal puts everything at risk," she replied, her pulse echoing his urgency. "But I want you." With that admission, the air shifted. The tension morphed into something more potent. Their lips drew near, and for that suspended moment, the world dissolved, a promise of what lay ahead. "Then let's make them regret underestimating us," Zaire breathed, sealing their pact with a glance that transcended words. As the sun dipped below the horizon outside, shooting vibrant hues into the sky, the line was drawn. Together they faced the encroaching storm. Scene 58. Clarity amidst chaos. The dim light of dusk pooled through the grand windows of the Vanderbilt mansion, filtering through the aged curtains with an ethereal glow. Dust motes danced lazily in the air, settling over the ornate furnishings, relics of a time when laughter and love filled this space. Now the room felt heavy, as if the very walls were bearing witness to the turmoil that threatened to unravel everything within their confines. Zaire stood near the fireplace, arms crossed tightly over his chest. His jaw was set, a muscle twitching with each breath, as conflict brewed in his stormy eyes. The warmth of the flames flickered against his skin, casting shadows that mirrored the chaos roiling within. Wrenna paced, her footsteps soft yet resonating with purpose against the polished hardwood. Her brow was furrowed, each movement an echo of frustration, yet the determination that coursed through her veins was palpable. "I can't believe you kept this from me," Wrenna exclaimed, her voice taut as if each word was a tightly wound spring ready to snap. She stopped, facing Zaire with an intensity that knocked the air from her lungs. "You had no right to hide who you are. This your world, it's dangerous." The last word held a tremor of fear, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of longing. Zaire's gaze darkened, fueled by a mixture of passion and regret. "I did what I had to do to protect you, Wrenna," he replied, stepping closer, the magnetic pull between them drawing taut. "I'm not just some criminal. I'm a man trying to build a future." "A future built on lies," she shot back, her frustration bursting forth like a dam breaking. With quickening breaths, he reached out, fingertips brushing against her arm. The mere touch sent sparks racing through her body, igniting a warmth that battled against the icy wall of anger she had constructed. "You don't understand the stakes," he said, intensity burning in his voice. "I thought keeping you safe meant keeping you away from this." Wrenna's heart hammered, caught between the fear of his reality and the undeniable attraction that tethered her to him. "Safe? You think lying to me is keeping me safe?" Ignoring her accusation, a hint of desperation seeped into Zaire's tone. "This is bigger than us. My past, your family, it's all connected. If they find out..." The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, breaking the charged silence. Wrenna turned, her heart racing anew as a family portrait caught her eye, serving as a reminder of the legacy she had inherited, the legacy he was so entwined within. "Whatever happens next, we face it together," Zaire said, his voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a secret between tangled souls. Wrenna clasped her hands behind her back, catching the fleeting warmth of his resolve. "Together?" she echoed, her voice softer, almost incredulous. "Together," he affirmed, a commitment woven into the fabric of their chaos, his gaze unwavering as he searched her face for belief. They both felt the tension simmering in the air, thicker than the scent of aged wood and burning embers. A door slammed shut off-screen, raising potholes of tension throughout the room. It pulled them from their fragile exchange. In that moment, they were not merely two souls ensnared by profound emotions, but warriors prepared for the battles that loomed ahead of them. From the doorway, Layla, one of Wrenna's closest friends, burst in, her face flushed with urgency. "The reports came in. They know about the mansion. We have to act fast." Wrenna's heart dropped, and she turned to Zaire, their connection crackling anew in the face of danger. "What do we do?" "First," Zaire said, moving toward Layla as if to shelter Wrenna behind him, "we gather our allies. This isn't just about us anymore." He glanced back at Wrenna, his eyes aflame with determination. "Don't forget what we're fighting for." "Can you trust them?" Wrenna asked, catching herself, fearing that doubt had crept back in. "Trust can be built, or it can be shattered. We'll know who our friends are soon enough." Leaning closer to Wrenna, he murmured, "You trust me, right?" Her breath hitched as their gazes locked, and in that intense instant, the chaos outside faded, leaving only the undeniable connection festering between them. "I have to," Wrenna confessed, feeling the weight of every word. "Then it's time to let the world know who we are." Zaire turned back to Layla, nodding. "Let's move." With renewed purpose, they stepped into the growing darkness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. But as they passed the grand doorway, Wrenna couldn't shake the lingering uncertainty tethered to her heart. The past was no longer just a ghost, but a relentless pursuit, one she might have to confront sooner rather than later. Scene 59. A desperate plan. The sound of rain pelted against the historic facade of Vanderbilt Manor, a rhythmic clash that underscored the tension inside. Wrenna stood in the dim light of the grand parlor, her fingers tracing the beautiful but weathered edges of a vintage map laid out on the massive oak table. The storm's wind howled outside, rattling the windows as though the universe were pushing against their plans. "Are you sure about this?" Zaire's voice cut through the thick air, low and intense, his dark silhouette looming in the doorway, a guardian caught between two worlds. He stepped forward, the elegance of his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the chaos outside. Wrenna glanced up, her green eyes swirling with determination. We can't just wait for them to come for us, Zaire. We need to take action before they realize what we're doing. The fervor in her voice belied the fear gripping her heart. He stepped closer, the scent of cedar and citrus surrounding him like a shield, grounding her soul. And what if your plan puts you in the line of fire? His brow furrowed, the fierce protectiveness of a man who bore the weight of a violent world flickering behind his gaze. Then I'd rather fight from the front lines than disappear into the shadows, she shot back, defiance entwined with vulnerability. The rain began to pour harder, a cacophony that mirrored the storm brewing within their conversation. Zaire crossed his arms, the fabric of his sleeve hugging his powerful biceps. You think they'll just sit back and let us do this? They'll fight back and they won't play nice. You saw what happened last time. Exactly, Wrenna exclaimed, slapping her palms against the table, scattering the papers. Last time I stood by while you cleaned up the mess. We can't afford to be passive anymore. I have the upper hand now. I inherited this mansion. I have power. Her voice cracked with passion, mingled with anger, ripping through his protective facade. He frowned, the shadow deepening on his face. Your power doesn't mean you're safe. You know this world is unforgiving. They will come for you, for us. Maybe they think I'm just a frightened girl in a pretty dress, she shot back, temper rising, cheeks flushing. But I am not a pawn in your world, Zaire. I have been through hell, and I am tired of being afraid. The tension between them simmered, a fiery connection sparked by shared trials and intimate secrets. Suddenly, Zaire's expression softened, the lines of tension easing enough to reveal a glimmer of admiration. I don't doubt your strength, Wrenna, but reckless passion. Isn't that better than doing nothing at all? She cut him off, her voice a challenge. The storm outside intensified, a gust of wind whipping past the windows, sending a shiver through the room. I won't lose you, he said, his voice low but fierce, stepping closer until she could almost feel the heat radiating from him. The air thickened with unspoken tension, each breath charged with possibility. The corner of her mouth lifted in defiance, despite the uncertainty swirling inside her. Then help me devise a plan that makes use of both of our strengths, together. He studied her, a long moment of silence hanging between them. Outside, thunder rolled, vibrating through the ground, an ominous companion to their conversation. Wrenna inhaled sharply, the scent of rain-soaked earth mixing with the warmth radiating from him, grounding her spirit. Fine, he said, the corners of his mouth pulling into a reluctant smile, his resolve strengthening. But if you're going to lead, we do it my way. We gather intel first, figure out how deep their roots go. Wrenna nodded, a rush of relief flooding her senses. I can start with the gallery connections. Some of the patrons might have heard something. Good, he responded, a fierce energy igniting between them. He reached out to squeeze her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles in a way that sent warmth coursing through her. Just promise me you'll be cautious. I can't lose you. Not to this. Then you'll need to trust me, she replied, her voice steady, the shared warmth of their fingers creating a deeper connection. We're in this together, remember? A hint of mischief lit Zaire's eyes, a momentary escape from the gravity of their situation. Oh, I remember, especially that moment when you shoved me aside to save your paintbrush. Wrenna laughed, the sound cutting through the tension like sunlight breaking through clouds. Your art is nearly as much of a disaster as these plans, she teased, lightening the storm inside. He leaned closer, the electricity between them sparking, and whispered, Just so you know, I'd gladly shove you aside for better tools any day. In that case, how about we gather what we need and meet in my studio? She suggested, an excited glimmer in her eyes. The storm raged outside, but in the dim light, hope flickered, anchored by the warmth of their renewed purpose and passion. They were ready to face what lay ahead, united, if only for a moment. Scene 60. Preparations for war. Wrenna stood at the large, ancient mahogany table in her grandmother's opulent study, traces of lemon oil still glistening in the dim light. She polished the surface absent-mindedly, her mind racing to reconnect the fragmented pieces of her world. Outside, the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting a golden glow that danced through the tall windows, mingling with the shadows of looming dread. Zaire leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his presence both a comfort and an inescapable pressure. The air felt charged between them, a silent acknowledgement of the battles that awaited. He watched as she moved, delicate yet determined, every swipe of the cloth a defiant stroke against the chaos that threatened to engulf them. "Wrenna, we can't keep taking chances," Zaire said, his deep voice rumbling with concern, cutting through the thickness of unspoken fears. "We need a solid plan." She paused, a cloth spinning slowly in her hand as she turned to face him. The faint hint of sandalwood lingered in his cologne, pulling her closer despite the gravity of the moment. "And what do you propose? An all-out assault?" Her tone was tinged with disbelief, yet beneath it brewed an intoxicating mix of courage and desperation. Zaire stepped forward, the intensity in his gaze pinning her in place. "We gather the team, hit them where it hurts. They won't see it coming. You know my network is tight. Is that what you think? That I'm just going to sit back, play damsel, while you do the risky stuff?" A flicker of fire flashed in her dark eyes, challenging his stoicism. "Wren, it's not about that." "No, it's always about that," she interrupted, frustration spilling over like the last drops of water from a filled cup, the importance of their mission momentarily forgotten. "I'm not here to be your prize. I want to fight too, but this isn't just your war." Zaire took a step closer, the distance closing like a tightly wound coil, the air thickening with tension. "You think I want this for me? I want to keep you safe." "Safe?" Wrenna's voice trembled, her resolve wavering, and she felt the weight of her emotions clashing violently with the logic of their situation. "Isn't that the same line everyone uses? I'm not a porcelain doll, Zaire. I have my own strength." He reached out, fingers delicately brushing her arm as if testing the temperature of vulnerability. "I know you do, but there are things, dark secrets, that could burn you." As silence enveloped them, the world outside faded, time suspended in this intimate storm of confusion and emotion. Wrenna could feel the heat radiating from him, a tangible force that pulled her toward him, each heartbeat loud in the stillness. Her breath quickened, anticipating the dance of souls that had become so familiar and yet remained maddeningly elusive. "I don't fear the shadows, Zaire." Her voice softened, layers of steel uncoiling beneath a whisper. "I fear what may happen if I'm not with you when they strike." "I can't protect you if you're in harm's way," he said, almost pleadingly, gaze intense, studying her every nuance. The flicker of candlelight highlighted the fierce determination in his features, illuminating not just his strength, but his hurt. Without thinking, Wrenna stepped forward, bridging the chasm between them. The warmth of their bodies intertwined like entwined vines. She reached up, cupping his rugged jaw, grounding herself against the tempest threatening to pull them apart. "Then don't shield me away. Prepare with me. We're in this together." The tension crackled like electricity before they melted into each other, lips brushing together in a breathtaking collision that ignited the air. It started gentle, curiosity sparking a new kind of heat, and quickly escalated into an insatiable mingling of fervent emotion. They remapped their world in that kiss, a merging of fears, ambitions, and the unyielding strength of love. Just as it deepened, they pulled back, breath mingling, foreheads pressed together. Wrenna's gaze danced through Zaire's, trying to decipher the intricate labyrinth of his thoughts. "Whatever comes, we face it head on," Zaire finally breathed, an unspoken promise shimmering in the weight of his words. "Together," Wrenna affirmed, each syllable charged with newfound resolve, ready for the impending storm. Scene 61. Unexpected allies. Wrenna stood at the threshold of her grandmother's mansion, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the manicured grounds, streaming through the delicate lace curtains. The scent of blooming jasmine hung in the air, intoxicating and tranquil, but it did little to calm her racing heart. She took a steadying breath, the coolness of the stone step beneath her bare feet grounding her in the moment, forcing back the trepidation clawing at her gut. The mansion, once vibrant and full of laughter, now felt like a haunted echo of her past, its walls holding secrets she was only beginning to understand. With each step further inside, the atmosphere swelled with memories, hand-painted portraits of ancestors, curving staircases that whispered of bygone tales. Today, she needed more than echoes. She needed allies. "Wrenna?" A hesitant voice broke through her reverie. Janine, her childhood friend, stood at the doorway, hair frizzing in the humidity but her smile warm. Thought you'd vanished on us. Wrenna's lips curled into a semblance of a smile as she beckoned her in. Just taking a moment. It's overwhelming. Janine entered, her eyes skimming over the room, pausing at the antique furniture draped in heavy silence. This place is beautiful, but it must feel suffocating. She stepped forward, her posture relaxed, but her gaze sharp, attuned to the undercurrents of Wrenna's anxiety. Wrenna nodded, her fingers flicking a speck of dust from a nearby chair. I could use your insight on a few things. Like the estate, there are threats lurking, and it's complicated. Janine tilted her head, the humor sparkling in her dark eyes dimming slightly. Threats? What kind? Outside, a group of children's laughter drifted from the street, starkly juxtaposed with the tension spiraling within Wrenna. She could hear a basketball thumping rhythmically lively, carefree. This world intersects with mine now. There are people who want to use my inheritance against him, or worse. You mean that intense guy you've been avoiding? Janine teased lightly, but the seriousness of her tone tempered the levity. You need to cut it off with him. It's not safe. Wrenna's stomach churned, her spine stiffening. He's not like the others, Janine. He protects me. There's this. She hesitated, the words hanging in the air like the sweet fragrance of jasmine. There's an energy between us. Is that what they're calling romantic entanglements these days? Janine quirked an eyebrow, leaning against the grand staircase. What does he do for you? Did he scare away your demons or drown them in roses? Wrenna's expression faltered, the weight of her truth suddenly heavy. He's complicated, but he sees me, really sees me, beneath everything. She tore her gaze away. Her heart swelled and sank with a longing she couldn't unequivocally embrace. But I liked my independence. Independence. Right. Janine gestured toward the window, overlooking the lush gardens where colors mingled and shimmered in the fading light. Sometimes we lean on others who can handle the chaos. That's not weakness. A moment passed, the warmth of the room enveloping them, and the air crackled with shared experiences. Just then, a commotion erupted outside. Janine ran to the window, her brow furrowed. Looks like a fight, a brawl, down at the corner. She turned back, excitement tinting her words. Let's go. No way. I can't be seen there. Wrenna shook her head, visions of chaos swirling in her mind, especially with Zaire involved. Come on, you need to see the reality of what you're tangled in. He isn't a saint, and you need to know who you're dealing with. Wrenna clenched her jaw, the warmth of the mansion suddenly oppressive, as if the walls themselves were squeezing her. What if? Enough with the what ifs, for heaven's sake, Wrenna. You have to know where he stands before it's too late. Caught in a storm of indecision, Wrenna met Janine's gaze, her mind racing with images of Zaire's intense eyes, the implication of danger lurking just beyond the horizon. Okay, you win, but I don't want this to put me in his shadow. As they hurried out, the air shifted with charged energy, the yells of fighters mixing with taunts and laughter. A group had gathered, some leaning against cars, others stepping forward to get a better view. Wrenna hesitated on the sidewalk, watching the chaos unfold, each punch thrown striking fear, yet igniting a thrill she couldn't ignore. Ready? Janine nudged her, laughter breaking the tension. Let's find out what this is really about, Wrenna replied, her voice steadier than she felt, a determination steering her into the fray. Amidst the chaos, another thought tugged at Wrenna's mind. Was seeking the truth her only way to break free? Scene 62. Emotional goodbyes. The air hung heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth, a prelude to the storm brewing not just in the skies, but deep within the hearts of those gathered. The sprawling grounds of Vanderbilt Manor exuded a palpable tension as dark clouds rolled overhead, casting the majestic historic mansion in a soft gray hue. It was a fortress of secrets and long-forgotten memories, almost alive in its looming presence. Wrenna Vanderbilt stood at the edge of the patio, her hands clasped tightly around the railing. Her gaze drifted to the iron-wrought gates that creaked slightly, a fitting metaphor for the turmoil behind her poised exterior. In a matter of hours, she would stand at the precipice of change, a decision that could alter the course of her life irrevocably. Rain's coming, murmured Renata, a fierce yet gentle soul who had become Wrenna's closest confidant. Dressed in a tailored navy blouse, she stepped closer, her eyes scanning Wrenna's face for signs of despair. Are you okay? You know you can talk to me. Wrenna forced a smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her ocean-deep brown eyes. I'm fine. Just a lot to think about. Is it about Zaire? Renata pressed, her voice imbued with subtle caution. As someone who had witnessed the whirlwind romance unfold, she understood the extraordinary intensity wrapped in Zaire's presence, clouded by danger and unspoken secrets. Yes, no, maybe. He's so incredibly complicated, Wrenna replied, the weight of her words settling like the storm clouds overhead. But there's something about him that makes me feel alive. The atmosphere shifted dramatically as Zaire Vellore emerged from the shadows of the grand doorway, his tall frame silhouetted against the fading light. A powerful man in an impeccable tailored suit, Zaire carried the essence of danger intertwined with magnetism. He approached Wrenna, his brow furrowing slightly as rain began to drizzle softly. "Wrenna," he said, his voice resonating with an intensity that pulled her closer. She turned, their eyes locking in a moment brimming with emotions unsaid. The world around them faded, leaving only the charged air between them. Zaire reached out, brushing a stray curl behind her ear, a simple gesture that quickened her breath. "I won't let anything happen to you," he promised, a fierce tenderness in his tone that belied his ruthless reputation as a crime boss. He took a step closer, his gaze piercing yet softening at the edges. Before she could respond, laughter erupted from the other side of the garden, where a small group had gathered, their boisterous energy slicing through the tension. Amir, Renata's witty brother and the self-proclaimed unofficial spokesperson of their circle, stood proudly with a barbecue spatula, flipping imaginary burgers as though he were standing before a crowd of fans. "I swear, if anyone mentions another sappy goodbye, I will personally host an intervention," Amir declared, his theatrics eliciting light laughter, easing the tension that had settled heavy in the air. "We should just let it rain on Wrenna's parade," chimed in Skylar, her mischievous grin lighting up her vibrant features. "She might finally get out of this funk, right?" Wrenna chuckled, grateful for the diversion. "My parade's perfectly fine, thank you." But as the laughter subsided, the weight of impending decisions returned, creeping back between her, Zaire, and the rest of their friends gathering around. Somehow sensing the need for connection, Zaire reached for Wrenna's hand, intertwining their fingers with a possessive yet reassuring grip. "I'll handle whatever comes our way," he said, his voice low and sincere, just for her ears. The droplets of rain began to fall heavier now, dancing a rhythmic tattoo against the stone floor. As the world around them faded into an intimate blur, Wrenna felt a fire ignite within, a tumultuous mix of fear and desire. She leaned closer, whispering softly, "Just promise you'll come back to me." "Always," he replied, the promise heavy with unspoken layers. Zaire brushed his lips against hers gently, igniting an electric jolt in the torrential gloom. Time suspended, and the kiss fervent yet tender enveloped them in warmth, ringing with gravity amid their choices. Then, sensing the charged atmosphere, Wrenna pulled back slightly, breathless. "We better join the others," she said, trying to gather her scattered thoughts. Yet a part of her longed to linger in this moment, to defy the storm brewing on the horizon. "Fine," Zaire chuckled, his amusement evident, yet something more serious flickered in his eyes. "But we'll have more time, Wrenna, I promise." As they rejoined the laughter and light, an undercurrent of sadness shimmered through the jokes shared amongst their friends. The storm on the horizon loomed, but for now they stood united, dancing mirthfully on the edge of the unknown. Scene 63. Lost in the moment. The thick air of summer clung to the walls of Vanderbilt Manor, where the cherry blossoms danced languidly in the twilight breeze. Wrenna stood by the tall window, her fingers tracing the condensation that gathered on the glass. Outside, the faint sounds of laughter mingled with the distant echo of a train as it groaned past the horizon. It was the kind of evening that invited introspection, the kind that mirrored her tangled thoughts. Across the room, Zaire leaned against the vintage desk, arms crossed, watching her with an intensity that made her heart race and her skin flush. Beneath the surface, an unspoken tension buzzed in the air like static electricity. She could feel it, a magnetic pull drawing them together, yet the shadows of their past lingered, whispering doubts in her ear. "Wrenna," Zaire began, his voice a low rumble, "I've been thinking." He He paused, drawing in a breath that seemed as tangible as the humidity that enveloped them. She turned to meet his gaze, deep and stormy, and it struck her how much she craved his honesty. "What about?" she asked, her voice softer than she intended, a vulnerability stretching between them like a bridge. Zaire shifted, and the soft creak of the old floorboards beneath him broke the tension. "About where we're headed. The weight of this everything," he gestured slightly, embodying their tumultuous journey. "It's a lot, but you have to know." An unexpected crash from outside interrupted him, a wine bottle tumbling to the ground, smashing against the patio stone. Laughter erupted from the garden where their friends had gathered, unaware of the turmoil inside. Wrenna's lips curled into a smile, the jovial chaos a stark contrast to the gravity of the moment inside. "Is it really that heavy?" she asked with a lightness she didn't feel. He stepped closer, the air between them electric. "I'm not here for jokes." Her pulse quickened as he crossed the space, the heat radiating off him palpable. "What are you here for then?" she challenged, a breathless bravado slipping into her voice. Zaire paused, his expression shifting to one of profound sincerity. "I'm here for the truth. You're scared, and I get it, but we can't keep dancing around this." "You don't know my fears," she replied, anger flaring momentarily, a puff of hot air against her chilled skin. "The world you live in, it's not just danger. It's, what, thrilling? Complicated? Yes." He stepped into her space, his presence overwhelming. "But I'm the danger, Wrenna. I can't always protect you from what I bring. You're not the villain, Zaire." The words shot out, sharp and unyielding. "Maybe not, but I've done things. Last night there was a meeting, and His words tangled in the air, heavy with unspoken confessions. "A meeting? What kind of meeting?" she pressed, her voice now tinged with a mix of worry and curiosity. "Just business." The way he said it, the muscle in his jaw tight, told her it was anything but ordinary. The strain built, and her heart ached, wanting to bridge the gap, but terrified of the chasm beneath. Business that could get you killed, or worse, put me in danger. "Then let's face it together," he urged, his voice dipping in volume yet rising in intensity. "Just give me the chance to prove it." In a surge of emotion, Wrenna surged toward him, feeling every heartbeat echo in her chest. "And what if I'm not strong enough to handle it? Then I'll be your strength." The promise in his gaze ignited a fierce warmth within her. She opened her mouth to respond, but was silenced when he stepped closer, closing the distance entirely. Their breaths mingled in stilted intervals as Zaire cupped her chin, coaxing her to look into his eyes, eyes that spoke of pain, protection, and an undeniable connection. The world outside faded into an echo, the remnants of laughter swallowed in the gravity of their moment. He leaned in, his lips brushing against hers, teasing the line between fear and hope. And just as the kiss took her breath away, she felt the sharp edge of vulnerability crumble, weaving them into a tapestry of shared longing. As they parted slightly, their foreheads resting against each other, Wrenna whispered, "What if we lose everything?" Zaire's thumb caressed her cheek, tender yet fierce. "Then we rebuild, with each other." The moment hung like the soft golden light filtering through the window, warm and vibrant against the darkening night, a world encapsulated in promise. Scene 64. The final countdown. The early morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Wrenna's inherited mansion, casting elongated shadows across the hardwood floor, which still bore the intricate marquetry of generations past. Wrenna stood in the vast kitchen, her hands busy with the familiar motions of kneading dough for a series of pastries she intended to deliver to the local bakery, a routine that eased her restless thoughts. The scent of fresh butter melded with the tang of yeast, creating an aromatic cocoon around her. Zaire leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching her with a cocktail of admiration and concern. He found solace in her mundane task, yet the weight of their looming confrontation thrummed in the air, causing the atmosphere to crackle with tension. "You know, you could let the baker handle that," he said, breaking the silence with a playful tilt of his head. "They don't need a home-cooked revolution." Wrenna shot him a glance, her hands momentarily pausing. "It's not just any revolution, Zaire. It's about connection, tradition." She sighed, her brow furrowing slightly as she attempted to control the flood of memories that rushed forth. Memories of her grandmother bustling around this very kitchen, flour dusting her hair. She took a deep breath, refocusing on the dough as if the tactile act could ground her turbulent thoughts. Zaire stepped closer. The scent of his cologne, a warm blend of cedar and leather, enfolded her. You're a great artist, Wrenna. All these pastries, are they really going to change the world? We have bigger battles to fight. She turned to him, her hands now covered in flour and a hint of fury sparking in her eyes. What do you want from me? To forget everything I've ever cherished because we have a fight ahead of us. The rise in her voice echoed in the expansive room, a softness beneath the bite. It's not about forgetting, he replied, voice low yet steady. It's about survival. That's all I care about. You, me, and us against everything that's coming. Wrenna felt the familiar tug of fear weave through her stomach. And what if I can't handle it? She challenged, pushing a recalcitrant strand of hair behind her ear, a movement that revealed the tension in her jaw. What if you're asking too much of me? In a flash, Zaire's expression shifted, the typical bravado giving way to a moment of unexpected vulnerability. What if I can't protect you? Every decision I make comes with a risk, and I don't want to lose you. Tension hung between them like a tightrope, and Wrenna felt the prick of tears threatening to spill. You think your choices define what I feel? You can't carry this all alone, she shouted, the words laced with both anger and desperation. You never let me in. I do this for us, he shot back, frustration flaring in his voice. You think I enjoy being this person?